Hey everybody, Pastor Greg here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know it is good wherever you are because life is good and it's getting better all the time. On behalf of myself and Pastor Yolanda, I just want to send a heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for helping to make our Easter service and our 3rd anniversary the best ever. We're hearing reports that your lives have been changed, transformed, and just magnified by the result of the service that CSC is to the world. It is a new month, which means we're in a new message series, Life After Life. Let's get into today's message. That's the principle, y'all. Just try it out. Try it with something small, but try it out. Maybe just try it like your coworker is getting on your nerves. Right? And then say, you know what? Pastor Greg, they said bless it. I'm just going to bless this. I'm going to bless this. Let me just bless it. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. And once you prove the principle in the small things, then ramp it up. Yes. And ramp it up. And ramp it up. Well, good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center. Good morning. How are we feeling? How are we doing? How are we being? You all look wonderful and amazing. Thank you, Soul 21. We have so much fun in rehearsal, y'all. You have no idea. Right? That's what all of this is. All of this joy. This is Tuesday night. We bring it to y'all on Sunday. We have so much fun and so much joy on Tuesday nights. Real talk, right? Yeah. Well, Pastor Yolanda and I are so excited about this month's series, Life After Life. And I want to offer some recommended reading. In our email this week, we sent it out, and there's a link on our Amazon store that's on our website, because I think there are some books that you may want to grab, you may want to read that can support you throughout this month's series. So the first one is 10 Things Dead People Want You to Know by Mike Dooley. And that book is actually on sale right now. The ebook through tomorrow is $1.99. So grab that one, right? Then there's Dying to Be Me by Anita Morajani. We're going to share some videos from her as well online. She has a powerful story, her near-death experience and her healing from cancer. There's Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander, who I've referenced in past sermons. There's A Stroke of Insight by Jill Bolt Taylor. And finally, another book, The Convoluted Universe by Dolores Cannon. We have those books as well as others, the links. You can grab them online. Pick one, pick them all, it doesn't matter. I know we read lots of books and we have lots of books in our list, but I guarantee you that if you grab one of these, it'll support you this month. So we're talking about life after life, and we're talking about this idea, as the message synopsis shared with us, that there's a way to understand ourselves now by understanding these accounts and looking at what has happened in near-death experiences and what has been documented for us. Now, one of the things that confuses us many times, the stories are a little different, right? You may have seen the movie Heaven is Real, right? Which has a very, specifically Christian undertone and overtone, right? But yet there's something within it, a common theme that I think we can grab from it, right? Even Dr. Eben Alexander, as he uses the word proof of heaven, that word heaven is not about this, streets paved with gold place that we've heard about, but it's the best word that we have in English to try to talk about this other reality, this next life, right? The next life beyond where we are. And so what I think is powerful is that we can look at all of these stories and find some common themes and some common ideas. Ideas like this: you are loved and cherished dearly forever. Yes. Now, right? Yes. You are important. Yes. You are powerful. You have nothing to fear. Yes. There is nothing wrong with you. That's excellent. Okay? You are unlimited. And what we're going to talk about today is that you are eternal. And so when we think about this idea of being eternal, I think so often, we miss it. I talked last week, how we identify with the body, and, the crucifixion was about the destruction of the illusion, the shell, the body, so that the Christ consciousness within us, that's what rises so we can understand that we're actually eternal. And so many times, as I said last week, we create defenses in our lives because we're really trying to protect this body, but this body is not even who we are. We're eternal, and when we understand that, we'll stop trying to protect this body in the way that we do. Right? We're creating defenses, creating boundaries in relationships, doing all of these things, thinking we're protecting something when, again, you're eternal. Now, to walk around life as though you're not eternal would be like to be the driver in the car thinking you're the car. Hear that? It would be like riding around in a car, the driver of the car, and thinking you're the car. Now, look at your life and think about how we do that in our lives, right? This learning device that we have, this body that we have, can be useful and is useful to move around and about and do wonderful things in this earth, but recognize that the body is the car. And you, the I am that you are, that thing, as I said last week, if you speak the word I am within your being, not out loud, that thing, that's the driver. And that thing is your God self. To walk around life as though you are not eternal would be like, and I've used this example many times, it would be like if you're playing a video game and you think that you're the Super Mario Brothers. Right? It's fun to play those games, and I remember I talked about it, I love to get in the game and you feel like you're being hurt and you're moving around, right? That's fun, that's the exciting part of the game, but I know that I'm not that graphic on the screen, I know that. And then that's what allows me to have fun. That's what allows me to move in a place of power, right? And then I know I have unlimited lives in that video game. Yes. I know I can reset and start over. Yes, yes? But see, when we don't understand that we're eternal, it's like we're living thinking that we're those dots on a screen. And if we fall down a hole, oh no, I've perished. Life is so bad and terrible. We meet a new obstacle. I don't know how I'm going to do this time. But think about how we do that in our lives. And so what's beautiful and powerful is that through these accounts, we have a way of coming into contact with this idea that we're eternal. Because when we talk about life after life, I have news for you. This is not your first life. This life is not your last life. And this life is not your only life. I'll say that again. This is not your last life. This is not your first life. And this is not your only life. And so one of the ways that we can begin to really embrace this, I think, is through looking at past lives, which is another way of looking at this near-death experience, right? And we're going to talk about why using past lives is a good thing and why it can also become very problematic. Now, before we get into that, I want to share this, and I've shared this in the past. It's one of my favorite teachings. It's from Paramhansa Yogananda, and it's from his text, Man's Eternal Quest, and he writes on divine memory. And the first time I heard this, which was about 6 or 7 years ago, it arrested me, and it's something that stays with me often. He writes this: memory was given to man to reproduce good. To abuse the power of memory is harmful. Memory was given to us to keep alive only life's good experiences and lessons. Get rid of past wrong past thoughts by avoiding recalling them. If they come to mind in spite of you, refuse to entertain them. Let me repeat. To remember bad experiences and dwell on them is an abuse of God's gift to us of memory. Rather, one should vow, I will use memory only to recall good thoughts and experiences. From this moment, I banish from my mind all unpleasant memories. They belong to the mortal being. I am a child of spirit. I am going to see, hear, taste, touch, feel, and will everything that is good. I shall take only the good from my life's experience, and I shall preserve only the good in my memory. Banish forever the abuse of memory. What he offers to us is that memory is a superpower, right? Because we know the past only exists when we bring it into the now, right? When we remember, put members back on it, or recreate it, right? So it doesn't exist. We have this divine power to create or recreate anything, right? So it is a divine power. But how often do we use memory to shame ourselves? How often do we use God's divine power of memory to blame and guilt ourselves, to remind ourselves of the mistakes we made? Well, how do you think you're going to do different in this relationship, right? Think about how we do that to ourselves. It's an abuse of this divine power. And we're going to talk about how that relates to past lives. But the reason why I say that past lives can be very beneficial are a few things. Now, one, we talked about past lives. If you get a past life reading or tap into what your past life was or past lives were, you then can understand that you've been here, you left, you came back, you left, you came back, right? So this idea of this life being fixed or a problem that you're having, this mountain seems insurmountable. The gift of the past life is understanding that, oh, I've actually overcome mountains before. Oh, wait, I'm an eternal being, and I'm here in this video game world that's fixed, right? This video game world, that's the limited world, but I'm not. I'm the unlimited being in the video game, right? We begin to understand that. What else, right? It puts current struggles in perspectives. But what it can also do, and this is what I love about the work of Dolores Cannon and also Mira Kelly. I don't have the name of her book now, but she's a Hay House author who's also written on past life work, and she conducts past life readings, is that you can heal current trauma through a past life reading. Depending on the method that's being used, what you will do is you will get that reading and recall a certain experience that may have have a lot to do with something you're experiencing now. And by tapping into your superconscious, your highest self, your capital S self, you can actually allow yourselves to be healed of that current trauma. So this is, again, why past lives are wonderful and can shift and change the perspective of where we are now. Because maybe you didn't realize you were eternal. Maybe you didn't remember that you were unlimited, and so you brought back an old story. You abused your power of divine memory and brought back the old story from a past life and recreated another trauma from a past life. But once you come into awareness that, oh, wait, I'm just recreating something from the past, and that's an abuse of this divine power that I have, and just as I have the power to recreate life, I also have the power to create new life. Yes, yes? And so you can use that to heal a past trauma. Beautiful. But then we have the other side of it, and unfortunately, I think this is the side that so many people use past lives for. Because as Yogananda talks about, right, this abuse of memory, well, see, this is how a lot of people use past lives, right? Oh, well, in my past life, I had this crazy relationship with my father, and so that's why all of my love relationships are this way. Oh, well, in a past life, this happened to me. I was drowned, and so that's why I don't want to go swimming, right? Right? But it's an abuse of your divine memory. Why? Because again, past lives are beautiful and wonderful if we use them, one, to confirm and affirm the truth that you're eternal. That you've been here, you left here, you've been all over the cosmos, right? Not just here, right? We won't get too deep into that, but you've been everywhere, right? Earth is not the only place. The Milky Way is not the only galaxy, all right? And so you begin to confirm that and you recognize, oh my goodness, I'm bigger than I thought I was. I'm more expansive than I thought I was. I'm more powerful than I realized I was. Why am I'm fretting over this job right now? Why am I losing my mind at the end of this relationship now? Right? You begin to understand that. But what happens is then it becomes a tool of the ego when we use it to just keep bringing back up the past to justify the so-called problems in our lives now. If you want to use it for a tool for healing, please do. Use it for a tool for healing. If you want to use it for a tool to awaken yourself and to understand who and what you are and what's beautiful as you read many of these accounts and as you read the past life accounts through Dolores Cannon, what was so beneficial to me was I didn't have to know about my own personal life or past lives. Reading about the experiences of others, reading about the readings that she gave for others, just expanded my mind beyond belief. And beautifully enough, and I'll say this now, if there's something that you're interested in, you can ask the spirit that is you to show you. You don't have to pay anybody money to go find out about yourself because it's you. I said, you don't have to pay anybody money to find out about yourself because it's you. And so if you bring that willingness, you can go into meditation, you can ask Source, or before you go to sleep, show me. It'll be revealed to you if you're ready, if you're willing, if you're able. But again, there are powerful teachers and beautiful facilitators that can help to move you into that place as well. But we recognize that we are no longer going to allow the ego to stand in this place and use the past life. See, because what the ego does, I say it so often that, we're too spiritual for our own good. And so we get spiritual and we fill ourselves up with this knowledge and we learn about past lives and it's good and it's wonderful. And then what does the ego do? It uses that very thing that was good, that is good, and pulls us right back into shame, pulls us right back into blame, pulls us right back into, oh, there's something wrong with me, pulls us right back into justifying the problems in our lives. It then becomes proof that we're bad. Right? Yes, you may have an experience and an awareness that you were a murderer in a past life. That has nothing to do with now. Nothing to do with now. And so you recognize that you have the power again to recreate the past, remember the past, as well you have the power to create new life and to create a new reality. Now, the other piece of it is, beautifully enough, is through our past lives, we can understand where our gifts, skills, talents, and abilities really come from. Maybe you may have an experience of a past life and you were speaking all over the world and empowering people's lives, but you're here in this life scared to just ask for a raise, right? Right? And so then all of a sudden you recognize, oh wait, well if I was that powerful in 600 AD, I could be this powerful in 2016, right? And then you begin to tap into yourself, tap into your very own power and begin to use it to create what you want, to ask for what you want, to speak up for what you want. It's a powerful, powerful awareness. Now, the title of this message is Pastime Paradise, and that's a reference to Stevie Wonder, yes, yes? Because he starts out the song talking about this idea that we've been spending most of our lives living in pastime paradise, looking behind us, not living forward, right? Talking about the old days, the ignorant days, right? But what I love is the way he ends the song. He says, let's start living for the future's paradise. Let's start imagining a world that works for everyone. Let's start imagining a world that we actually want to see. A world first individually, and then out of that individual imagination, the collective imagination, right? And then as I thought about that, this idea of let's start living for the future paradise. And as I said earlier, I said, this is not your first life, this is not your last life, and this is not your only life, okay? Now, what's interesting about that, this is not your only life. I want y'all to hear this. So, every choice that you've made or didn't make plays out. Every choice that you've made or didn't make plays out. So, there may be a choice that you regret you didn't make, right? For a long time, I regretted not going to Berklee College of Music, right? And that's how I used to talk about it, as a regret. I was accepted, all that good stuff, but I didn't go, right? And sometimes I think about, well, what would my life be like? What would have happened if I had gone to Berklee College of Music? What would, where would my path be? Would I still be Pastor Greg? I think so, but who knows? But every choice that we make or didn't make plays out. That means that there's a self that is you. There's a self that is me in this context of this past regret that took that path and went along that journey. So I say, this is not your first life, last life, or only life. All of your choices play out in another realm, right? If you want to get deep and you look at the quantum realm, there are parallel timelines, right? There's not just one timeline. Some would even say they're parallel Earths. We won't get into that, right? They're parallel timelines. And so what's beautiful about this and what has been so helpful and beneficial to me in understanding that is then what happens is maybe there was a choice you didn't make. There was a job you didn't take and you regret it. There's a relationship that you were just too fearful to be open to, right? And in that moment, you just couldn't, you didn't love yourself enough to accept or receive the love that was being given to you in that situation. And part of you still feels like, my life would be different if I had gone down that path. Whatever it may be for you, there's a you that lived out that journey, right? There's a you that made that choice and is living the success of that choice. And so what we have the opportunity to do, many times what happens is we come to that same point from another way. So you didn't make the choice in 1980, right? But you made the choice in 1990. And what begins to happen is those two selves begin to converge, right? Because the success that you had, if you would have made it in 80, or the success that you have now, you come to the same place, and those selves come together. And so I can prove to you that that you're not living just one life by this beautiful tool that I learned from our brother, Dr. Joel Vitale. And he invites us to look at whatever's going on in our life. Maybe there's something that you want to achieve. There's something you want to accomplish. You have a goal. You may have written out your vision if you're working in 90 Days to Greatness, or you may just be just doing that in general. You set certain intentions. You set certain goals for the year, right? Now, what's beautiful is we are the what. God sourced the universe is the how. So we tell it what we want, and it brings forth all of the resources and plans and things that are needed to bring that into being. And so, again, because every choice is already playing itself out, that means that there's a self that is you that has already achieved the goal. There's a self that is you that already has the money. There's a self that is you that is already in the relationship. There's a self that is you that has already released the weight. There's a self that is you that is already in that new job. There's a self that is you that already has the family. Now, what you can do it right now. Close your eyes and ask that self, what did you do to get to that place? And listen for the answer. Whatever that goal is for you, whatever that thing is that you're seeking to achieve, the self that is you, because see, we say this and we don't appreciate all of what's happening. We say that everything is already a complete idea in the mind of God. If it's a complete idea, that means there's a self that is you that is already experiencing the completion of that idea. The only thing about time is the process that we've created to manifest things into being in the physical reality. The non-physical reality source, God, the universe, doesn't need that. When a thought happens, the fullness of it is created. So you can ask yourself, within yourself, your future self, what did you do? What was the first step you took, self? Well, what was the second step? Well, what were the things that you thought, that you had to think in order to bring this into being? This even takes us back to visioning. What were the things you had to let go of in order to bring this thing into being? What habits, what patterns, what ways of thinking did you have to drop, future self, future successful self, in order for this to come into being? Let's start living for the future's paradise. As you are an eternal being, not limited to this time-space reality. As you are an eternal being, recognizing that this is not your first life or your last life, but that you are only living life after life, after life, after life. This is why we say death is not an ending, it's a transition. If you listen to and study Abraham is very clear. It says death is just like walking out of one room into the other. We walk out of this sanctuary into the lobby. That's what death is. From one life to another life. From one experience to another experience. On that, I invite everybody to stand. Let's start living for the future's paradise. You're eternal beings. Do you know how powerful you are? You are loved and cherished forever. You are important. Oh my goodness, and there is nothing to fear. There are no mistakes. You are not a mistake. You have not made any mistakes. In totality, none of those things, that was just you believing in the illusion. But just like the video game, you can press reset, start all over again. That's a gift. And so we take a breath Mother, Father, God, our hearts are filled with gratitude. We are grateful and thankful to be reminded that we are eternal. We are grateful and thankful to be reminded that we are unlimited beings. And we are grateful and thankful to remember that that is the truth of all of our family and friends, those that have transitioned and those that are still here. And so as we recognize that, we know that we can feel them here even now, because as we are one, we can tap into and touch them even now. As we recognize that they are one with you as we are one with you, we are connected to them even now. And so we give thanks and praise for our ancestors. We give thanks and praise for the angels, for the guides. We use many names for them. It is all a reflection of you, which is all an expression of the oneness that each and every one of us are and possess and live in. As we recognize that we are the activity of God, as we recognize that we are the actual living expression of this thing that we call God, we no longer live according to the small story. We take the wisdom from our past lives and remember the good and turn our eyes away from anything else. We forgive ourselves and we set ourselves free for any time that we use this superpower of divine memory to abuse, to shame, or to guilt ourselves. We forgive ourselves and we set ourselves free now. But we remember now that this power is good. And we remember that this power can create old life or new life. And we are putting our attention on creating new life, new experiences, more fun, more adventure. And as we do that, the world around us absolutely must change. I'm grateful for each and every one of these eternal beings that have said yes to the adventure in this time-space reality, that each and every one of us get to come together and cross paths for a moment. It is so good to know God as each and every one of you. And so I release this prayer now with joy and thanksgiving. And together we say, Amen, Amen. Ashe. Ashe. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.